Bienvenidos a EO Impact Drivers, el podcast de EO Puerto Rico. Este año nuestro enfoque es claro: make it personal, make it purposeful, make it matter. Y no hay mejor manera de vivirlo que conversando con líderes que transforman la manera en que servimos, conectamos y lideramos. Somos Carlos Bruno, presidente de Arteria Publicidad.
Y José Mera, CEO de X-Commandment.
Juntos seremos sus anfitriones hoy en este espacio donde exploramos historias que inspiran acción y estrategias que generan impacto real. Hoy tenemos el privilegio de conversar con un visionario que no solo ha redefinido el concepto de servicio, sino que ha creado toda una revolución alrededor de él.
Today's guest is John DiJulius III. John is a world authority on customer and employee experience. As Chief Revolution Officer and President of the DiJulius Group, he helps companies create world-class service cultures that turns customers into loyal fans. As best-selling author of 6 books, including The Customer Service Revolution and The Relationship Economy, John has redefined how leaders use service as a competitive advantage. His clients include the Ritz-Carlton, Starbucks, Lexus, Nordstrom, Marriott, and PwC, among many others. He inspires leaders worldwide to make service personal, purposeful, and revolutionary. Now, let's dive into today's conversation. So, John, thank you for being here with us.
Pleasure.
Great seeing you after this morning's presentation. You've been in service for over 25 years in this world of customer experience. Let's go all the way to the beginning. Why did you go into customer experience since the beginning, and what really pulled you into this world of creating memories instead of only focusing on service?
Yeah. So the first business I started 33 years ago, me and my wife opened a little 4-chair hair salon, and we had the 3 no's: no money, no customers, no employees. And in any direction, if you threw a rock, you'd hit 10 of our competitors. There was salons up and down the street, and we couldn't out advertise them, build, right, out market, outspend, any of that. But back then, in the early 90s, in Cleveland, where I'm from and where our businesses started, the customer service wasn't good, probably in any business. And so we wanted to be the best experience in our customers' day. And when we said that, we did, and I think this is a mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is we didn't want to be the best experience of any hair salon you went to, because it's kind of irrelevant. Because if you or your wife came into my salon today, you then don't leave and go across the street to our nearest competitor and compare. You don't need a hair salon for a few more weeks, a month, whatever your cadence is. So how good we were to our direct competitors is irrelevant. But before or after you were coming to our salon, you were going to the doctor's office, you were going shopping, you were picking up dry cleaning, whatever, errands. And we wanted to be the best experience you had, bar none. So that became our focus. And back then it didn't cost us anything to be nice and to train our employees to remember things about people and just give a really good experience. And then you fast forward, 20, 30 years later, we have deeper pockets. We can, spend a little bit more, but we still, the experience is our marketing. That's what, built our business. And so what started happening is, in the 90s, in the mid 90s, I thought that's all we were going to do was, me personally. But because of the reputation of our customer experience and our growth, people started asking me to speak on customer service in Cleveland. And so I just did it as a marketing opportunity that, you'd hear about it and maybe buy your wife a gift certificate. I never thought it was going to grow into anything. But every time I spoke at a chamber of commerce or something, 2 or 3 business owners would come up and ask if I could, if they could hire me to come in and speak to their business. And I didn't even know that was a thing. And so it kept on growing and growing. And then finally in 2003, my first book came out. And that's what really took me out of the salons and, full-time speaking, and which eventually turned into consulting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What type of, can you give examples of what things that you did that you had over your experience and, people noticed because you went to the Chamber of Commerce? Sorry. What type of experience can you give the examples of what you did in the salon?
Yeah. So, do you remember Cheers, the show Cheers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that was actually the title of my first book before it didn't go through, was Mastering the Norm Factor. Norm from Cheers. We ended up not getting that. And thank God, because no one would know it today. But our whole thing when we start open was, how can we make people feel like Norm, right? Norm walked into Cheers, Norm, everyone knew his name, and, and the relationship they built. And that's, I was obsessed with that. So not only, it was easy to make the regulars feel like Norm, right? You come in all the time, but I wanted us to make the people that came in twice a year, once a year, feel like Norm. That's a little harder. Mm-hmm. So that's where Secret Service, that was the title of my first book. Secret Service is hidden systems that deliver unforgettable service. So an example, if you walk into any of my salons 30 years ago today, you see a bunch of people getting their hair cut. You see 10 in a black John Roberts haircutting cape. You'll see 1 or 2 in a white John Roberts haircutting cape. To you, we have black and white capes. Mm-hmm. To my team, anyone in white has never been here before. So now we personalize it, right? If someone else is walking by and you're in a white cape, hey, welcome to John Roberts. I understand this is your first experience. Let me give you a tour. Here's coffee. Here's this. If you're in a black cape, you're an old friend. Welcome back. Great to see you again. And people would be like, how do you guys, is there a sign on my back? And they'd never know. But, it's a little thing. If you're in a gold cape, you're a VIP. Right? You don't walk to the chair. We carry you to the chair, And so it was all about creating little Secret Service systems that the customer didn't know, but our employees was like having night vision goggles that we'd see things that no one else would see. So a lot of things like that.
And you have more than one salon, right?
Yeah, 4 in Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
Yeah.
How do you duplicate that experience when you have, salons all over the city or in different places and make it like a standard? Yeah,
I mean it's training. It starts with who we hire, how we hire, and then when you get there, now our reputation filters out people like people that you don't want to go work there. They're crazy. They make you but that's a good thing, right? It's kind of like I always use this as an example. If you have a next door neighbor daughter is 19 or 20, okay, and she's not the most pleasant person, and you were just chatting with her and she says, I'm looking for a job, and you knew Chick-fil-A was hiring, you probably wouldn't tell her to go, she's not a right fit for a Chick-fil-A. Now, if she's the opposite and she's so sweet and she's so personable, you'd be like, you got to apply at Chick-fil-A, right? So when you start having that reputation of really strong customer service, obsessive customer service, it filters out wrong fit employees for you and it attracts right fit. So then it's just training and obsessive measuring and making sure, because, and this has happened, where I might go up to you as a client and you're in a white cape, right? I go up to you and say, hey, I'm John. Welcome for your first time. And you'd be like, I've been here before. Well, someone put the wrong cape on you, right? Mm-hmm. That can't happen. It just made me look like an idiot and you don't feel like that important, right? So, there's just systems that we train to and we measure and we, got to execute.
One of the things that you're highlighting that I think is very important is the employees. Is at some point in the beginning, you're scalable until a certain point, but then you need the people to help you emulate that experience to others. So can you walk us through how do the first 90 or 120 days look like for a new employee, given that you're mentioning that training is a key component, and how do you make sure that they can actually go through that call it evangelism of the experience that you're trying to get
Yeah.
to your customers?
So it starts even before that. My newest book is called The Employee Experience Revolution, and it's about recruiting, onboarding, retaining all the way through. So it really starts about the selection process, and that we're always interviewing. And listen, I didn't invent this. I've taken it from great companies that have done it, but it's how we select. And we say we hire for the heart and train for the part. We can train you. I think in almost any industry, we can train you to do, the skill part, but I can't change if you come, how you come, to serve. And if you're genuinely a happy person and you have enthusiasm and optimism. So we really look for those characteristics, and the rest we can teach. So our interview process is very hard. It takes several interviews to get hired, but we're really seeing if, are you faking it on the first interview? So we do group interviews, and a lot of we call our interview process, try to make it ungameable, right? So I know if you guys are interviewing me today for a job, probably you're going to ask me, hey, John, tell us 2 drawbacks about you. And I think about it, and I'd say, I'm a perfectionist and workaholic, right? Bam, I nailed that question, right? Those are common questions. So having interview questions that people don't realize really what. So one of my favorite that I've learned from the Ritz-Carlton and stuff is do group interviews the first round. So instead of having 6 different hours interviewing 6 people, right? That's a waste of time. Interview all 6 of them at the same time. And the first time. And so then, and what people, and so we'll ask a question. Hey, tell us about a time when you went above and beyond for a customer. The candidate thinks they're being judged on who has the best answer. What we're really looking at is, what are you doing when he's answering? And you might be focused on how you're going to beat that answer, right? Or you might have already answered, so you've kind of checked out and you're looking at your Apple Watch and kind of zoomed out. Or he says something funny and you're smiling and nodding. That's what we're looking for. What's he doing? Is he making you feel comfortable? Is he making you, or is he just totally oblivious to that? So it's a lot of things like that. But then when we get you, when we bring you on board, a lot of people's new employee orientation is how not to get fired, right? It's like, all right, your first day, if you no call, no show, more than once, if you come in late more than 3 times, and how exciting is that? You go home and you tell your parents or your spouse, hey, honey, I found out the most, 10 top ways I can get fired. Right. And so onboarding should be a whole culture immersion of like how this is different from any other job you've had. And we really get you excited about what you can do. We tell you all the above and beyond stories, and you had no idea. Like, we tell you about how, she started off in your position 25 years ago, and today she's a partner. Like, this isn't a temporary, it doesn't have to be a temporary transitional job that you might think it is. Like, we have a lot of people that started off exactly where you're starting off, and today they're, managing partners, they're VPs and all that, and get them really excited about their job. And we're constantly, not only in orientation and first 90 days, but every day telling them about a story about that someone went above and beyond. So it's kind of putting that FOMO, that positive peer pressure of this is who we are. Like, you got to step up and do this for other people. And one of my most favorite comments is to say, you'll never get fired for something you do. You'll get fired for something you don't do. Like if someone doesn't like something, make it right. I don't care what that looks like, make it right. But their last job, they might have gotten fired for doing that. Right. And so, but that's a hard, transition to get you out of that last job that they were policy. No policy here. Yeah.
I have a question. Going to the human connection that you mentioned a lot in your presentation, you mixed it with the digital world.
Yeah.
For example, you work with Chick-fil-A and Starbucks, and right now there is a lot of technology like kiosks to order that eliminate the human part.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Well, so, Starbucks is a great case study because they got away from, they were known for the last 30 years as the third place. The place you can get away from work and family and just go there, read a book, clean up your inbox, or conduct an interview. Well, then when the pandemic came and after that, they reduced their footprint of their in-store dining and really focused on mobile ordering and to go. And they lost their mojo and sales gone down. So now they're trying to go back to the in-store experience, the escape, putting your names on the cup. So there is a balance. Like, I like their app, okay, that I could order and pick up and I don't have to wait in a long line. But I also want the opportunity to go in there and catch up with a friend, or, have an interview, or, have a meeting. And that's the thing. So, AI and digital is great for removing the minutia, the things that you don't need a human for, but you can't eliminate the human interaction. And so it's reduced a lot of human interaction, which has now made the human interaction even more critical, that when we do get a human, they better make it matter. They better, be purposeful and be present, instead of looking at me as the venti soy latte or my 1030 or things that we could be guilty of.
Yeah. One last question, John, is you've consulted to small business and also, these large brands like Starbucks, and what would you say at different scales of the business can they also scale the customer experience? It's not the same to scale at the Starbucks enterprise level, compared to, let's say, a 20 or 50 employee base salary, right? So what are things that you can do across each level, or also things that you can do regardless whether you're a Starbucks or also a mom and pop of 20 to 50 employee?
Yeah, so grow. I always say nothing will ruin a customer experience faster than rapid growth. And like, I remember 33 years ago when we were looking for a receptionist, we'd interview 20 to find the one. That fast forward 10, 15 years later, we got hired 10 people or 15 people. We're interviewing 17. And the reason why we interviewed the two extras because they didn't want the job, right? and that, all of a sudden you wake up and you don't have the culture and the, commitment. So you got to be careful with that. But the one thing that smaller businesses have to remember that their advantage is that intimacy, that they're not a national brand. So they better crush it on remembering their locals, remembering your orders, remembering and you guys might have said it already. Customers will experience what employees experience. So if I take care of the employee, they'll take care of the customer. But if I'm not taking care of the employees, they're not going to take care of the customer. That's the advantage of a small, intimate thing. And if you're not doing that, then the chains and the big boxes are going to eat your lunch. And then the big boxes, when you get bigger, the advantage they have is that they can have a dedicated chief experience officer that's only worried about, they have a dedicated HR person that's only worried about hiring the right people. But you got to be careful, because when you get too big, you get bureaucracy and it's like, churning a yacht in a bathtub, when you get big, and that gets really hard. And that's why you got to try to keep it as simple as you can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Felipe, so do we do that? Okay. Sorry, I had seen the time. I'm not sure if we can do. I said one more question.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know we're in a good rhythm, but I wanted to be mindful of the time. Okay. Perfect.
Or it could be something you heard today that you liked. Whatever.
Well, I know there is a lot of pressure for big companies, corporations to make more money, be more efficient. And when that happens, the service tends to go down. And how do you make a strategy based on service when you have that pressure from a big company, big numbers, make more money?
So executives, senior executives, CFOs who think that customer service and customer experience training is an expense don't understand the ROI, and I like to call ROX, return on experience. And the most profitable companies have the best customer experience scores, right? Chick-fil-A dominates, Amazon, Apple dominate, and they're great at customer experience. But you have to have the KPIs. Otherwise, it's just going to, seem like a unnecessary expense and warm and fuzzy. So when you could measure something like a 1% swing, plus or minus, in customer retention, customer referrals, net promoter score, those types of things, you can see hard dollars, and then it's worth the investment of making sure from the hiring to the training to the ongoing. I talked this morning in the keynote about earned growth rate. And earned growth rate is, your sales comes from two places, bought and earned. Bought is, you saw my billboard, you SEO'd me in Google, and which means if you SEO'd me, you're not only calling me, but you're calling four of my competitors, and you're looking for the best deal, right? I don't like those calls, right? Because I'm not going to be the best deal on paper. Earned means you're repeat. You've done business with me before, and you've been really happy, and you want to do it again. You're not price sensitive. You know that we, charge a lot, but we must also justify it. Or he demanded you use us, right? You're looking for whatever we do, whatever business model we're talking about, and he's like, you have to use. They are the best, and that's earned. Earned is referral or retain. That's the most profitable customer, and when you can grow that. Now you're really feeding the bottom line, and you're going to have top and bottom line growth.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that's great. What's the one thing that you would tell our audience of yours and others at large that they could focus on this week to make their experience or the service more personal with their client base or their employees, or even outside of work? Yeah.
So model the behavior. I always love, to myself and to leaders is go show the proper way, and when necessary, use words. And what I mean by that is, model the behavior, take care of your employees, remember they're Ford, and we talked about this earlier in the presentation. We should know our customers' Ford, and what that Ford stands for is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If our employees are focusing on, family, occupation, recreation, dreams, they're building, a rapport. They're building a relationship. They're remembering the next time you come in, Jose, didn't you tell me your son was, or, this or that, and that builds a great relationship. But the entrepreneurs need to know the Ford of their employees, right? And, family, occupation, don't think you get a pass, right? Because they work for you. No. What I think we should know of our employees' occupations, what do they want to be doing 5 years from today, right? And some may want your job. Okay, I'll help you get there. Some may not want to be here, right? This is a temporary job. I really want to go into media, or I want to go into this, and go, all right, I'm going to help you get there, right? And working for me and the skill sets you're going to learn here is really going to help your resume. And when you're ready, when you get out of school and you're ready, tell me, an entrepreneur, right? I know people, but when you do that, they work harder for you, but they also become your best source of advertising because, it wasn't just about, how much money can you make me and how profitable can you make me? They become your source for future employees and customers. So I think it's really, what they experience on the inside, they're going to experience on the outside.
John, thank you so much for this powerful conversation. You're reminding us that service isn't about transactions, but it's about transformation. And the way we make people feel becomes their true measure of leadership.
Esta conversación con John DiJulius nos invita a ver el servicio como una forma de liderazgo consciente, una manera de generar un impacto real desde la empatía, la intención y la excelencia. Nos reta a crear una cultura donde servir realmente es un acto de propósito, no solo de proceso.
Thank you, John, and thank you, everyone.
Les damos las gracias por estar en este podcast y ser parte. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hoy nos acompaña Selma Dávila, CEO del bufete Almeida y Dávila, Impact Chairperson de EO Puerto Rico y parte del equipo que hace posible este podcast, Impact Drivers. Nos contará cómo los miembros pueden apoyar y amplificar la voz de nuestra comunidad a través de este espacio de liderazgo.
Perfecto, Selma, bienvenida.
Gracias.
¿Estás lista en la silla de los testigos?
Me encanta estar aquí, me encanta estar de este lado, he estado de allá,
Exacto.
allá atrás y ahora aquí.
Oye, no, muchas gracias por todo lo que haces y colaboras en este tremendo espacio. Pero la pregunta es, ¿cómo nace el espacio de Ignite dentro de EO Puerto Rico? ¿Y cuál es el propósito que cumple este espacio dentro de la organización?
Pues mira, todo surge de una silla nueva en la Junta de Directores, que es la silla de Impact, creada por Jean-Paul Rocafort. Él quería que este año, ¿verdad?, fuera purposeful, make it purposeful, make it matter. Y nos dimos a la tarea de pensar, ¿verdad?, cómo podemos hacer que esta silla verdaderamente deje una huella en Puerto Rico más allá de, ¿verdad?, del día de hoy, y que la comunidad de EO sea quien está dejando esa huella. Y entonces creamos un programa que tiene distintos componentes, entre los cuales se encuentra este podcast. Pero los componentes son básicamente tres. Primero, tenemos un componente de servicio a la comunidad, en el cual los EOers, junto a sus equipos, tienen la oportunidad de ir y servir a la comunidad en limpieza comunitaria. Esto lo estamos haciendo en colaboración con Caras con Causa. También estamos haciendo unos eventos de recolecta de comida. Hay mucha necesidad en Puerto Rico,
Claro.
Mucha necesidad, hay insuficiencia alimentaria bastante, y pues somos muy privilegiados en tener lo que tenemos y ser líderes dentro de nuestras empresas, y queremos llevar el liderato más allá de los negocios y envolver también a nuestros empleados en ese giving back, o sea, esa acción de dar alimentos o de dar una limpieza a alguien que en realidad lo necesita. Muchas veces tiene un ripple effect dentro de su ¿verdad?, de su familia y dentro de su comunidad. Llevan no tan solo lo que reciben, sino que lo llevan consigo para el resto de la vida, y ellos se convierten entonces en givers en el futuro. Pues tenemos otras iniciativas. Y una de las grandes iniciativas es este podcast. Como EOers, ustedes saben que recibimos una educación espectacular con todos estos speakers que nos vienen a hablar.
Learning series espectaculares.
Son world class authors and speakers que nos vienen a dar unas técnicas y ¿verdad?, unos insights que no todo el mundo tiene acceso a ellos. Y entonces el espacio de este Impact Drivers Podcast es para que los EOers puedan entrevistar desde el lente de Puerto Rico, desde el lente de lo que estamos viviendo hoy día aquí, a estos speakers, y añadir ese valor a los demás empresarios en Puerto Rico.
Oye, y hablando de eso un poco, tú, o sea, esto es una herramienta que ayuda a conectar los empresarios locales con empresarios globales, ¿verdad? O líderes globales. ¿Por qué es importante que los miembros de EO participen y compartan estos podcasts?
Hay muchas maneras de participar. Es bien importante porque hay mucha competencia en los podcasts, ¿verdad?, como saben. Y para poder amplificar estos mensajes, amplificar los mensajes que nos dan los speakers y las conversaciones que estamos teniendo con ellos, llegando a niveles profundos de conversación, necesitamos ayuda en amplificarlas. ¿Y cómo nos pueden ayudar? Pues claro, dándole like, dándole share a los episodios. Estos episodios se están publicando una vez al mes, todos los últimos sábados de cada mes. Y una manera bien importante que nos pueden ayudar es siendo colaboradores del podcast. Así como ustedes están siendo colaboradores en este momento, siendo los hosts, invitamos a los distintos viewers a que sean hosts también.
Claro.
Y la otra manera de colaborar es siendo sponsors del podcast, y lo que hacemos es que, como pueden ver en este episodio, hay unos cintillos en la parte de abajo del episodio en distintos momentos con unos logos. Esos son logos de empresas que son EOers y algunas que no lo son, que aportan económicamente al podcast mediante compra de ese cintillo. Y ahora mismo tenemos una oferta que si eres auspiciador de 2 episodios, entonces aparece tu logo en 3 episodios. Así que con solamente comprar 2, pues tienes un tercero.
Definitivamente, ¿verdad? La experiencia ha sido fenomenal. Hemos estado, ¿verdad? Ya esta es la segunda experiencia que hemos tenido y definitivamente pienso, ¿verdad? Que todos los EOers deben involucrarse en esta plataforma que definitivamente es una experiencia única.
Y más tú, que has salido toda natural, ¿sabes? Con un delivery que es una cosa increíble.
Tú también ves.
Tratamos.
A Pedro no le gusta, a Pedro le encanta el micrófono. El apoyo genuinamente es necesario de los EOers y de todos los miembros para que esto continúe.
Correcto. El apoyo es necesario para que continúe. No solo los eventos de impacto, de limpieza, de aportación de comida, sino que también la participación como host, como co-host, y también la aportación económica para poder costear esta producción. Esto es una producción de alta calidad. Esto no es con un celular ni nada de eso. Y pues tiene unos costos de producción.
Claro.
Y tenemos que, para poder que esto se mantenga, hay que colaborar.
Súper.
Perfecto, yo creo que nos queda claro.
Claro. Bueno, gracias Selma por recordarnos que cada miembro puede ser parte de este movimiento de impacto en la comunidad. Bueno, la visión de Serena So nos recordó que las relaciones auténticas son el mejor liderazgo. Y gracias a EO Puerto Rico vemos cómo estas ideas cobran vida en nuestra comunidad a través de EO Impact Drivers Podcast. Cada episodio nos une. Lo global inspira y lo local impulsa. Vamos a seguir creando conexiones que encienden propósito e impacto. Esto fue EO Impact Drivers, el podcast de EO Puerto Rico.
Y como le gustaría a JP, make it personal,
make it purposeful, and make it matter. Hasta la próxima.